With just a short while left for the 2022 season to kick off, F1 crews have been quite busy preparing themselves for a year that will be unlike any other. Teams like Aston Martin and Alpine have already made quite a few replacements in their lineup, such as new team principals, senior engineers, and so forth. While all of these changes have slowly taken place, one man's future in F1, however, still hangs in the balance. That is none other than Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes driver was left with rather a bitter taste following the events of the controversial Abu Dhabi GP. Since his defeat, Hamilton has kept a low profile, which has caused many to speculate whether Hamilton might finally hang up his racing boots and retire from the sport. So, without wasting any more time, let's take a look at what F1 drivers really think of Lewis Hamilton's retirement. Carlos Sainz. The 27-year-old Spaniard finished 5th in the drivers' standings last season, a tremendous achievement given that it was only his first season at Ferrari. Talking about the absurd sequence of events that unfolded in Abu Dhabi, Sainz said, "I've never had it before, having to restart the race with these two guys in front of me while fighting for a P3. I believe it was a strange one and something to look at because it was just very strange to see, and it nearly cost me a podium, to be honest." Clearly surprised by what had happened, Sainz did feel sorry for Hamilton and shared his thoughts about Hamilton's retirement plan, stating, "I don't know what Hamilton will decide to do. I hope Hamilton doesn't retire. I want to continue racing with him. He's one of the best in history, and I want to continue sharing the grid with him." David Coulthard. The former Red Bull driver turned commentator was active in the F1 season from 1994 till the end of 2008. During this period, Coulthard has had a few moments racing against Hamilton, who at the time was fighting for the first among his many titles. Hamilton's commitment is unquestionable. He showed why he was a 7-time world champion. He's a phenomenon, and he's an incredible sports person. He's already committed to another 2 years. He's a team person. He's committed to that team, and he will be there next year trying to win an 8th world title, remarked Coulthard while speaking about the British driver's return to the sport. Coulthard would go on to explain why he admired Hamilton regardless of his impending decision to retire by mentioning, "He'll clearly be disappointed, to say the least, but you've got to try and imagine putting yourself in his shoes. He's a great racing driver, he's won multiple championships, and he's overcome adversity in his racing career. He's a fantastic example to sportsmen and women out there on how to handle defeat." Max Verstappen. The newly crowned champion faced a serious challenge from 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton over the course of the 2021 season. Going into the final round, tensions were at an all-time high as both rivals were equal on points, only for Max to emerge victorious in the final lap of the race. Coming fresh off his win, Verstappen shared his opinion on what the results meant for Hamilton's future by saying, "I can understand being unhappy about what happened after the first few days, but you also understand that this is racing and these things sometimes happen. I think it even happened to him before, so I think he knows that. I think Lewis should just look at what he's achieved. That should comfort him and encourage him to keep going because he can still fight for the 8th title again next year. So I see no reason for him to give up or stop now." Jacques Villeneuve. The Canadian F1 driver won his one and only championship in 1997 under circumstances that were surprisingly similar to what took place last year. Villeneuve too went on to compete for the title till the very last race and ended up winning amidst high controversy regarding a deliberate crash by title contender Michael Schumacher. Voicing his view about the outcome of the race, Villeneuve pointed out, "Lewis thought he could easily win the 8th title, but that didn't happen. It's like a diamond being ripped out of your hand. The way it happened was a lot more painful than if Verstappen had led the whole race. It's good for the sport anyway, because Lewis now has to come back and try and win his 8th championship and be aggressive to try to win it." Villeneuve further went on to add, "Nobody expected Nico Rosberg to not come back, and suddenly he just woke up one morning and told everyone he actually wasn't passionate about racing in a way. That doesn't seem to be the case with Lewis, but who knows." Nico Rosberg. Hamilton's childhood friend turned foe, Rosberg had a long-standing rivalry with the British driver during his years at Mercedes. After winning the 2016 Drivers' Championship, Rosberg decided to call it quit, a shock exit from the sport that surprised many. Since then, Rosberg has become a racing pundit, often discussing various happenings in Formula 1. Addressing the final showdown in Abu Dhabi, Rosberg claimed, "It was heartbreaking for him, absolutely, because up until 4 laps from the end he was almost certain to be world champion. Then with this change of procedure, or whatever you want to call it, suddenly he lost the world championship. So it was tough, it was extremely tough." Rosberg, however, remained hopeful about Hamilton coming back this season, stating, "Of course, I do count on him being back on the grid next year and fighting to get back that World Championship that kind of got taken away from him in a way. I do hope that Lewis and Max will go at it again next year. It's incredible to see their skill and to watch them go at it. They're like they're on their own planet, they're well beyond everybody else." Valtteri Bottas. The now ex-Mercedes driver has been Hamilton's teammate since 2017, having partnered the champion through his last 3 title wins. In the 5 years that Bottas spent with Mercedes, the Finnish driver paid close attention to his teammates' performance on track and picked up quite a few skills, finishing second in the 2019 and 2020 championship fight. With Lewis, what has been really impressive is that every year he's still able to develop as a driver. He's got such a big experience at Formula 1, but still he's been able to learn more. He always wants more out of himself and the team around him. It's been the same thing every year, he keeps getting better," said Bottas while dismissing rumours of Hamilton leaving F1. Valtteri spoke fondly about his former teammate and disclosed why he felt Hamilton will race in 2022 by saying, "It's been impressive to see him still develop and not get too comfortable. It doesn't come automatically. He works for it because he knows the competition is getting tougher and tougher. I've definitely learned many things from him during these 5 years, driving-wise, setup-wise, lots of small things here and there." Alain Prost. A 4-time world champion himself, Alain Prost has seen his fair share of on-track rivalries and final race showdowns during his stint as a racing driver. The fight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in last year's races drew close parallels to the conflict between Prost and Ayrton Senna back in the early 90s. As part of the Alpine team, Prost intently followed all the races and had his own concerns about Hamilton's next move, disclosing, "It's hard to put yourself in his shoes. He surely has as many reasons to stop as to continue. It's 50-50. He's taken a big mental blow, but it would be really sad if he wasn't there next season. I want to stay optimistic because there is this 8th title to go and this new technical regulation, with maybe 3 teams at the top and 4 or 5 drivers vying for the title. That's a challenge Hamilton might want to take on." Although no longer involved with Alpine, Prost is highly looking forward to seeing Hamilton back in the paddock. Karun Chandhok. Having raced in Formula 1 for HRT as well as Team Lotus, Chandhok has spent his time outside F1 racing in other series such as Formula E and the FIA GT series. Chandhok also serves as an analyst and a commentator for Sky Sports, reporting on the behind-the-scenes action. Personally, I'd be very surprised if we don't see either of them, Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton, in Bahrain next year. I think what they're upset about is the way the last lap unfolded, where only certain cars were allowed to unlap themselves, which was highly unusual. I think Lewis, yes, he's hurt and Toto's hurt and both are feeling a bit disillusioned by the sport, but I think ultimately they want to come back and chase that goal of becoming world champions for the 8th time. Certainly Lewis does. I still believe we'll see him on the grid next year, declared Chandhok while sharing his belief on Hamilton's retirement. Throughout all of this, Hamilton himself has maintained radio silence across all his social media accounts, much to the concern of his fans worldwide. As the first race of this new season approaches closer and closer, Mercedes are going to have a tough time ahead if Hamilton does choose to retire, putting an end to one of F1's greatest racing careers. So, what are your thoughts about Hamilton's retirement? Do you think Hamilton will return? And if not, who should take over his place? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.